Hello, thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk about solving percent problems with equations. And there's a little hint going on here when we say with equations. We mean that we're going to set up these problems in the form of an equation. And it's going to take this form. The percent of an amount is equal to oops, I meant to say is a number. An amount, so a large amount. So the percent of a large amount is some percentage of that. We call that the percentage. Um, so basically, the first thing to know is that the word of means times, and the word is means equals. So when we have a percent, we multiply it times the base, what with the total amount, and that gives us the percentage or the amount that is that percent. Okay, so what we're going to do then, the process that we're going to do is we're going to take each sentence and we're going to try to translate it into this sentence, and then we're just going to solve it. So if I say what number is, now first of all, what number is the question, that's the unknown, so we're going to say x for that, so x, and then is, remember it stands for equals, 25% of 55. So this sentence translates into x equals 25% times 55. Now, that's pretty easy. 25% is the same as 0.25. So 0.25 times 55. We can do that fairly quickly. I'll do it in long form. So let's see, 0.25. That's 25, carry the 2, 25 plus 2 is 27, then bring a 0, 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, add these up, 5 plus 7, 5, 7, 3, 1, there's 2 decimal places, so move that over there, and we get 13.75. Okay, so now we can complete our sentence. 13.75 is 25% of 55. And that makes sense. Another way to think about 25%, of course, is 1/4. So 1/4 of 55, and 55 divided by 5. Divided by 4, it's 1/4. Divided by 4, that'd be 1. And then that would be, let's see, what would that be? 3. And then that would be, let's see, 7. And then 5. And 1/4 of 55 is 13.75. Okay, now that was just kind of a verification. The thing is that we don't normally have, our percents are not normally things that we can like easily turn into a simple fraction that we can use to just do a quick division. Right? So 25% is 1/4, so divide by 4, that's pretty easy. 20% is 1/5, so we can divide by 5. But most, 72%, there's no way, I don't know how to divide, there's no way to do quick division with 72%. So the method of writing the equation is going to be the method that holds with us. Okay, let's do the next one. And this time I'm going to change up my method a little bit because I'm going to write my percent as a decimal as soon as I see it. Okay, so 0.5 is 20, percent, which is 0.2 of times what number? So x is going to be the what number there. That's being multiplied by 20% in order to get 0.5. Now, in that equation, instead of multiplying two things together, because the unknown is one of the things we're multiplying, we're going to solve by division. So we're going to divide by 0.2. Now, I'm a little bit worried about this. This is not going to come out well, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. 0.2 goes into 0.5. How many times? Well, first of all, we move the decimal over one space. Decimal is going to go right there. 2 goes into 5 two times. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Remainder is 0, so we get 2.5 is x. X equals 2.5. So 0.5 is 20%, or 1/5 of 2.5. And that, again, makes perfect sense. 2.5 divided by 5 is 0.5. Okay, that's the last of the, well, maybe the easy ones. I don't know if you would agree that that was easy. Let's do the next one. 72%, that's 0.72% is, as a percent, 0.72 is a decimal, of means times 63 is what number? Well, hooray, we have another multiplication problem. So we can do that. 63, 72, 0.72, 6, 12, bring down, or add a 0 for the next, multiply by the tens place. 7 times 3 is 21, carry the 2, 7 times 6 is 42, plus 2 is 44. 6, it's 3, it's 5, it's 4. 2 decimal places. X equals 45.36. Now, if we get an answer that's just a couple of decimal places, it's legitimate to just go straight with that. But if we have lots and lots of decimal places, especially if we're doing division, and we'll do some rounding at some point. Okay, let's do the next one. 7 is what percent of 45? Now this time, the x, the variable, the unknown, is the percent. And the only thing that's going to be different here is we need to recognize that percents are going to be calculated when we do this multiplication. They're going to be calculated in the form of decimals. So we're going to get an answer, but it's going to be a decimal, and then we'll have to turn it into a percent. All right, so what do we do here to solve this equation? We divide by 45. And at this point, I pull up my calculator because you don't want to see me doing any more long division. 7 divided by 45 is 0.15, repeating, 15555. Okay, so x equals 0.1555, and then it just repeats. Okay, so to change that to a percent, I'm going to move the decimal over two spaces. 1, 5 point, and then I'll go ahead and round the next 5 up to a 6. 15.6%. All right. We'll just do a couple more of these to see if we can get in the groove here. So again, take each number, write it down, write the word is as equals. What is the variable? Of means times. And there we have it. So 30 equals what percent of 20? We'll divide by 20. And x equals, well, what is that? 30 divided by 20 is the same as 3/2, which is 1.5. Now we want to change that to a percent. And don't be fooled by the fact that this number is already bigger than, like if I move the decimal over, it's going to be over 100. That's okay. We're still going to move the decimal over 2 spaces. So we get 150%. 30 is 150% of 20. Does that make sense? Well, yeah, it does. 100% of 20 is 20. 50% of 20 is 10, half of 20. 150% of 20 would be 20 plus 10, which is 30. So that makes perfect sense. So this formula works even if we have something that's over 100%. And so you want to be really careful to apply the formula, and then you don't have to worry about the numbers adding up. Okay, 7.2 is 6 1/4 times of what number? Now, it might be more useful to change that 6 1/4 to 6.25, so that when I do my division, I'm doing 6.25, 7.2 divided by 6.25, and that will get everything into decimals. And then I can do long division, or I could just pull up the calculator. 7.2 divided by 6.25. And I get 1.152. Now let's see if this makes sense. 7.2 is 6 1/4% of what number? Oh my goodness. I cannot believe I did that. Forgive me, forgive me. I have completely done this one wrong. We are going to have to start this one over again. You're hopefully screaming at the screen, but well, let's check our answer. Let's see if this makes sense. 7.2 is 6 1/4% of what number? So 6 1/4% would be a very small amount. So 7.2 is a small amount of my number. And my number, I say, is even smaller, 1.152. So I did something wrong here. Hopefully you can see that I did something wrong here. So I need to go back and figure out what I did wrong, and I think I can see it, and I've spotted it. I hope you can see it too. That I forgot to change my 6 1/4% into decimal form. I changed 6 1/4 to a decimal, but it's still 6 1/4%. So let's go back and rejigger that, and it's going to be kind of interesting what happens here. Okay, so let's go back and fix this. Let's see, first of all, we're going to change it to 6 1/4, but first we're going to say 7.2 equals 6.25% times x. Now let's change it to a decimal. 6.25 is 0.620. Whoops, still doing it wrong. 0.0, move the decimal over 2 spaces, 625 times x equals 7.2. Isn't that funny? I did the same thing I warned you against. Don't get decimals and percents mixed up. Even a percent in decimal form is still a percent. We have to divide by 100, or we have to move the decimal over 2 spaces. So now we're going to divide by 0.0625. Now, funny thing is, we'll definitely do that on the calculator. Funny thing is, we're going to get the same number, only with the decimal point moved over. It's actually 115.2. Now, one of the things that we learn here is to be very tenacious with this. If we do the numbers and it doesn't seem to work out, it's probably because we made a mistake. So I always like to go back and look at my sentence and just see, does this make sense? 7.2 is 6.25% of 115.2. 6.25% of 115.2. Well, 115.2 is a big number, over 100. 6% of that is going to be a small number, somewhere around 6, right? 6% of 100 is 6. So 6% of 115 is going to be a little bit more than 6, maybe 7.2. So we messed up. I messed up on the first attempt at this one because I forgot to change my my mixed number form of a percent into a decimal, a true decimal, not just the decimal form of the percent. And so that was my mistake. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you'll join me next time for more mistakes.